Sausage! That's how I say hello over the holidays, and today I'm making 100 sausages with 4 different recipes. I'm gonna smoke them 2 times for amazing flavor, and that's what I'm inviting you to see today. Come along. Sausages have been a staple in the human diet for thousands of years, with first records of meat being stuffed into intestinal casings being found in Sumerian tablets dating 4000 BCE. The 4 recipes that we're going to use to create this sausage madness are going to be Romanian, Chinese, Italian and Portuguese, and I've chosen these specific ones because they are so different from each other. Each of these recipes is going to bring something new to the table and hopefully stimulate your curiosity to look for other recipes from other cultures. To make a good base for sausage, you need to have a 70 to 30 ratio, 70% lean meat, 30% fat. I am making 8 kilos of total product because I want to split it into 4 different recipes of 2 kilos each, and because of that I went with 3 kilos of pork loin, which is the lean meat, 4 kilos of pork shoulder, which is the fatty meat, and then 1 kilo of just pure fat from the back of the pig, because that one doesn't really have any meat in it and we want it to be pure fat. This amount of 8 kilo of base will give you between 100 and 130 sausages. So for 2 kilos of sausage mix, you'll need 1 kilo or 2.2 pounds of pork loin, 750 grams or 1.6 pounds of pork shoulder, and 250 grams or half a pound of fat. You will get between 20 and 35 sausages, depending on how long you're gonna twist the sausages. I went with 10 to 12 centimeters for each, or 4 to 5 inches, but that's up to you. When preparing the meat for the sausage mix, you have a couple of options. You can either mince it through a machine, which is going to give you a more emulsified finished product, or you can chop it by hand, which will take longer, but in the end is going to give you, in my opinion, a superior product, because the sausage or the inside of the sausage is going to look like a high quality salami when it's all done. Regardless of what method you're going to go with, we need to take a couple of safety or food safety steps before we do that. Even if you mince it or you chop it, the meat is going to stay out for a long period of time. So in preparation for that, take the meat that you bought, usually in big chunks, and just cut it in smaller cubes or pieces. That will help either when you cut it or when you mince it, because the mincing machine is going to need a decently sized piece to go to the blades. So take the meats and the fat and cut them into smaller workable pieces of meat, put them back into their original bag separately and freeze them for 10 to 12 hours. We don't want to freeze them rock solid, because later when we're going to have to cut them or mince them, we'll have to dislodge them from each other. So 12 hours maximum is enough. Also, freezing the meat makes it easier to work with, either if you chop it or if you put it through the mincer. After 12 hours, get the individual bags out one by one and either mince or chop it. If you mince, make sure that you use the biggest plate, the biggest mincing plate, because we don't want to make this meat super small. That's gonna emulsify the sausage too much and it's gonna feel more like a hot dog than a sausage. We want to avoid that. That's why I personally am gonna go with chopping it, because by chopping it into small pieces, you will have a finished product with a very special texture. That will help, especially if you're gonna keep on curing them after you smoke them. You let them dry for like a month in a cold place, and after the sausage is cured and dry, when you cut into it, it's gonna have a nice chewy texture that's gonna offer a special satisfaction when you eat it, compared to an emulsified sausage that just breaks apart in your mouth. The next step is very important, because we need to season the meat with 35 grams or 2 tablespoons of salt and 10 grams or 1 tablespoon of pepper. We mix it very well, and then once it's all incorporated, we want to put it back in the bag or container and into the fridge for 12 to 24 hours. Now in this time, the meat is gonna assimilate or absorb as much of the salt and pepper as it needs, so that tomorrow we have the base. There are 4 recipes that I'm going to use to make the sausages. The first one is the Romanian one, and if you want something garlicky, spicy, but at the same time quite balanced and pleasant, then you should try this one. Next we have the Chinese recipe, which is full of umami from the soy sauce and sweetness from the sugar that's used in the recipe. The Italian recipe is going to leave you wondering if this is a sausage or mulled wine because of the amount and diversity of spices that go into it. Lastly, we have the Portuguese style recipe that will appeal to those of you who like a spicy sausage. Also, it tastes very similar to an unfermented chorizo, so if that's what you're looking for, then try this recipe. You can find all the recipes in PDF format in the description below. Once you decided on what recipe you're gonna use, then let's get to making the sausages. Add your ingredients to the sausage base and with 5 minutes on the clock, mix it well until all the ingredients are fully incorporated. Then store the meat in the fridge for at least 1 hour because this is going to allow the meat to absorb all the flavors from the spices. Meanwhile, prepare your casings by soaking them for 20 minutes in warm water that is about 30 degrees Celsius or 84 Fahrenheit. While you're waiting for your meat and your casing to get ready, it's a good time to take a small amount of that mixture and just make it into a meatball and fry it. This is going to indicate if the seasoning is right, if you need to add something, or if everything is perfect, and also is going to be a nice break from all of this sausage making. I'm going to do this with all 4 mixes of meat, which is going to constitute my lunch, but at the same time I'm going to make a traditional drink that goes with sausage making, or more than that, with the sacrificing of the animal for Christmas. Back home, when we used to have this celebration of, butchering the pig and making all of these amazing products from it, which was once a year in Christmas, the drink that accompanied all of this process was, for the lack of better word, mulled vodka. Traditionally is made with a homemade hooch or moonshine or whatever you call it in your part of the world, but we're going to use vodka. And it's very simple. You just caramelize sugar, you put the vodka on top of that, then you add 2 cloves and a bit of cinnamon. You mix it all until it goes to a boil and you stop it. You don't want to boil it all the way because you're going to boil the alcohol out, but this is a really nice drink that's not going to only keep you warm while you butcher the hog, but also give you that, jolly feeling of Christmas. If you're interested in this drink, I'll put the ingredients and the quantities in the description below. Flip the meatballs and make sure that you don't overcook them. You want to keep as much fat and juices inside of it because that's where all the flavor is. Good stuff. This is the Chinese one. Cheers. That soy sauce really comes through.
Very nice.
Wow, that's good.
Seasoning's good, yeah.
It's only going to get better. This is Portugal.
So different. Very herby.
Wow. Spicy.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, for my palate,
there's a lot of spice in
that
it.
cayenne and those chili flakes didn't really have time to settle in.
That's the dill one. Which one is that?
It's the Romanian
Romanian.
deal. And imagine this cured, smoked and cured. And this is Italian. Yeah, straight away cinnamon.
Yeah, that smells like a lot of cinnamon.
And nutmeg. Tastes like meat chocolate. Not bad.
What the nutmeg is gonna do.
So, I mean, it works very well with meat and fat. Palate cleanser.
I'm really curious to see what they're gonna taste like when smoked.
Smoked and cured.
Still fire.
But so good.
Very delicious, but still very
Sweet.
fire. I gotta give it to you. The
It's
kind of,
huge difference.
yeah, the consistency of it is very nice.
I like the chewiness.
Okay.
Satisfaction. With fresh energy from the taste test, we need to now wash the casings on the inside as well under a small stream of water because we need to remove the excess salt and also lubricate them on the inside to have a very smooth process when we're actually stuffing them with the meat. Once you wash the casings on the inside, put them on a plate or on a tray separate from each other so they don't get tangled. This is going to save us a lot of headache later when we need to put them on the stuffing nozzle. Whatever sausage stuffing machine you're going to use, either electric or manual, make sure that before you start anything, you lubricate the outside of the stuffing nozzle, because it's going to be very easy to continuously stuff the sausages when they come out. Otherwise, there's a risk of the sausage sticking to the unlubricated nozzle and then ripping apart. If this is the first time you're making sausages, then you need to learn how to put the casings on in the easiest way possible. And to do that, you need to use both of your hands. One hand needs to be on the nozzle itself, so after you manage to put the casing on, this hand is only going to push it towards the end of the nozzle. The other hand needs to keep it aligned with the hole of the nozzle. The more you stay in the middle, the quicker the casing is going to get on the nozzle. Otherwise, the other hand, if it's too low or too high, there's a risk of pinching it or breaking the casing, and then you're gonna have to get it out and basically throw it away, because once broken you cannot really use that casing anymore. The more air you have in the sausages, the higher the risk for bacteria and mold to develop. Make sure you leave about 2 centimeters or 1 inch of loose casing at the end. Don't tie it now, but that's going to be basically the end of the sausage. The reason why we don't tie it now is because once the meat is going to come from the machine, it will push inside air. We don't want to trap any air inside of the sausage itself. So now, by having a loose open casing at the end, all that air is going to fly out and give us a better or safer product. Stuffing the sausages can be quite an easy job if you have a partner in crime. It is a two-person job because one of you needs to be operating the machine and feeding it. The other one needs to be holding the sausages as they come out and massaging them again to try and spread the meat as well as possible and to squeeze some air out if there is any. At the same time, we want to make sure that we don't overstuff them. 2 reasons. One, it can burst and ruin your casing. Second of all, if it's too stuffed and too stiff now, in a second when we need to twist them and separate them into individual sausages, that's going to be very hard. Go with an average filling because they will become as stiff and as sausage-like once you divide them into individual segments. For our recipe, we needed between 2 and 3 meters of casing to fit the 2 kilo of sausage mix that we had. This gave us between 23 and 36 sausages. Then we're gonna go into the twisting process. This is where you will decide how long and how big your sausages will be. We decided to go with 10 to 12 centimeters or 4 to 5 inches. You just want to push slowly on the sausage casing to split the meat to the size desired, and then you're going to twist them. One forward, one backwards. One forward, one backwards. Most people who are really confident in sausage making, they don't tie the individual sausages with a string, but I want to make sure that they're not going to break or mix with each other and not give me the classic sausage look that I'm looking for. So I'm using butcher's twine. After I twist them and divide it into the size that I want, I'm going to take small pieces of butcher's twine and create a border in between them to ensure that they will not spill or mix in the next processes that I'm going to put them through. All 4 recipes are done and the results are a bit different because we got 37 and 36 respectively of the Romanian and Italian sausages and 25 and 23 of the Chinese and Portuguese one. The reason for this is that we stuffed them, the Romanian and the Italian ones, a bit less than the other ones. Initially we wanted to use a thinner casing, but the machine that we have couldn't receive that thinner casing. So, we just used the casing that we had and stuffed them less, massaging it in such a way that we kind of get the same result as with the thinner casing. But the unfortunate outcome was that we got much more than the other 2 recipes. Once the sausages are stuffed, you want to take them straight away to a cold room or to the smokehouse, somewhere where the temperature is going to be below 8 Celsius, and leave them there to dry for 24 hours. After this period of time, we can jump straight away into smoking them. So it's smoking day, and the good news is that we got about 100 plus sausages. They barely fitted in the smokehouse, so I think we finally have a limit to the amount of sausages that we can do in one go, which is around 100. But that's good. As for the wood that we're going to use, I managed to secure some beech wood. So it needs to be smoked 4 hours each day. That's 8 hours total. And I'm going to mix a bit what I usually use, which is fruit tree wood, mainly apple and cherry, and sometimes plum, because I want to give them a bit of stronger flavor. That's where the small amount of beech wood, the strong essence wood, is going to come into place. As usual, I'm mixing some dry wood to make a big steady bed of coals, and then I'm adding wood that I'm pre-soaking 1 day in advance. Not using any fancy shells this time because I just need to save some more. You want to smoke them for 2 consecutive days with 4 to 6 hours maximum, and you want to let them breathe in between. So today we're smoking them, then we're going to leave them until tomorrow morning when we're going to come back just to assimilate all of that smokiness. And after that, when we're going to smoke them for the second day, we're going to leave them again for a whole day. It would be more advisable to leave them for 2 whole days or 48 hours after you finish smoking them in a safe space in cold temperature, just to kind of finish them. And after that, you can cook them and eat them, or you can let them dry longer for weeks or even months if you have a cold space where to keep them. And then they're going to dry up and become something really, really special. The majority of them, I'm just going to leave them here in the tiny house to keep on drying and dehydrating, so that maybe in February, March, that's going to be a whole different product and super delicious for summertime or springtime. Time to taste the finished product, and I'm just going to shut up and eat because they look so good. And this is what I want you to see, the consistency of chopped or cut meat instead of minced meat. Look at this. It's like strong together. It doesn't break apart like some people say, and it's very juicy, and I bet it's going to taste amazing. So the first one I'm going to try is the Chinese style. Oh wow, it's so good. It was good when we tried just the meatballs, but now with the smoke, it gives it a whole new dimension of flavor. It's very sweet though, and I think you would benefit from something sour like these pickled peppers. So let's try. It balances so nice. You still have the smokiness, but then the flavors of the pickle with the Chinese style sausage, they just melt very good. Wow, that's so good. Okay, next, the Portuguese style. You can smell the wine straight away. Woo, that's spicy. The spice, the wine comes through, and the chewiness, because the meat is chopped and not like minced, makes such a huge difference. But this is very spicy. Next is the Italian one, which I renamed meat chocolate in the first taste. well, it's not chocolate anymore. It's very nice, very different. It lost a lot of the cinnamony, the nutmeggy, all of those strong flavors. They're not present so strongly anymore. I think this could be put on things like pizzas, can be used to cook with instead of cooking it and then eating it. Okay, and the last one, the Romanian one. Amazing. And you would think that with all the herbs that went into it, there are a huge amount of garlic. I mean, 70 grams of garlic for 2 kilos of meat, that's a lot. It would be unbalanced and overpowering, but it's not. It's so good and just reminds me of all those years when we would prepare the sausages at my grandma's place. And it was more than just making sausages. It was a time when the kids, the young ones, would spend time with the grandparents and even great-grandparents and learn from them. Not just how to make food like this, but like life lessons. I was lucky enough to spend time with my grandparents and my great-grandparents, which were fortunate to live more than 100 years. Now, the more I eat, the hungrier I get, so I think I'm just gonna dive deep into this plate and maybe finish it and then have a nap. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I've inspired you to try something different, some new recipes, some new flavors for the upcoming holidays. If you thought this was amazing, then wait until you're gonna see the whole Christmas table. This series is gonna be all about traditional Romanian and Polish dishes, all mixed together for Christmas. So if that sounds interesting, we're inviting you in our home for Christmas to share more than just food, but also customs and traditions that hopefully are gonna inspire or intrigue you to learn more about other cultures. Thank you very much for liking and subscribing, for watching and supporting us so much over the last 2 years, and I'll see you next time.